What's the best way? So if I'm into high winds and I've landed, I need to kill the glider. So I'm spinning around to face the wing. Is it best to just jam the brakes back and down? Is that the best way to kill it in high wind?
And walk towards the glider?
Walk towards the glider, yeah. Or run if it's run.
Run. Yeah. Like there's different methods, but you want to obviously get the glider on the ground as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
If I guess in strong wind, it's easier. You'll be able to kill the glider better if you can get a hold of the seas and pull them.
Yeah.
But to do that, you have to have practiced it a lot in ground handling and in conditions that are building up.
Yeah.
And then you have to also be in control once you've landed on the ground to go through the process of grabbing the seas.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yes, that is the way. Like, if you're landing and you're like barely going forward, so the wind's really strong on the ground. For me, I touch the ground. I know it's going to be strong. If I can't keep the glider above my head, I'd be bearing the brakes and I'd be turning around and running after the glider. Like, I think you saw me at MAB that time.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Yeah.
You been doing what?
So as soon as I touched down, I'd be bearing the brakes in the process of turning around, and then you're in this position running towards the wing because you want to bury, touch down, bury the brakes, and now my hands are like this, and my A's are out here. So the wing's going to be probably snaking around a little bit, but just run towards the wing.
Okay.
And eventually, in my experience, there'll be a time when the wind does something to the wing that it stops going backwards, and then you can run to the side or grab a wingtip.
Yeah, whereas with most wings, if you like, the preference is to kill it with the seas because pulling on the brakes actually creates lift and increases angle of attack briefly, and like lifts you up and you go back. But killing it with the seas, most wings, it will kind of deform the wing, and so it's not really generating lift, it just starts to fall back. But the most important thing, if you are in that, is to try to turn to the wing so that you can run towards it. Because if you're still facing the wing and trying to do things this way, your feet just don't work that way and you're pulled off balance. So it's just a matter of like, if you're touching, even if you're here and you're touching down, is just committing and leaning back and taking a big step back towards it, and then two more, because as soon as you do that, all the power goes out, and then it'll start to collapse anyway, and then it's easy to pull on your brakes. Because sometimes you'll find that there's so much pressure in it, especially if you're like scared and leaning back against it, and you're trying to pull on your C's, it's just impossible. Like, unless you're super strong, you might be able to reef it down, but like I'm not, and so I have to run towards the wing when it's super strong like that, and just really like yank it down and yank it fast, and that kind of disturbs the wing profile as well. So it'll kind of slip down off that pressure zone, and get going. But
slowly.
So, but again, it's like a ground handling thing. The more you ground handle, the better you'll be. And if you go ground handling, it's really nice to kind of pull your wing up and then stand and just kite it and keep it up. Like it feels awesome. But again, it's kind of like, doing short sleddies all the time. There's possibly more value in like getting your wing out, laying it out, lifting it up, and then get it up, get it in control, turn, get it all stable, and then turn and kill it. Bunch it all up, lay it out again, go back, do it all again. And just doing that process of managing, and especially when it's windy, managing your wing even while it's on the ground in the wind and not blowing all over the place. There's certain ways that you can lay your rosette down, push the centre down, and then just kind of keeping it under control with the lines, and then getting your brakes ready in case it inflates and goes. Like all those sorts of things is really valuable to just practice on the ground all the time.
And just taking that to the next ultimate step, what happens, excuse me, if, lost my voice.
Can I add one more thing before you ask the question on that? Like, when your wing comes down, if you can let it come down in a way that's not against the wind, like if you can let it come down, like it needs you to move obviously, but like coming down perpendicular to the wind.
Yeah, okay.
Or at least diagonal or something, because
Yeah.
if you're essentially building a wall when you come down, letting your wing come down like
That's
that,
right.
it's going to catch the wing. But if you can,
Yeah.
same with strong wind launches, like you won't be ideally building a wall in a strong wind launch because that's going to catch the wind. You'll be launching it in a like more diagonal
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
way as well. So yeah, just to make it catch the wind.
Yeah, okay. And what happens if you're skidding along on your feet are gone and you're being dragged really fast by your wing?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, hypothetically, and you're flying along and you're thinking, oh my God, how am I, nothing you're doing is working to bring it under control. So when that happened last time, I was able to like grab the Cs and just drag one C in as I went up on my,
Yeah.
and eventually got to the wing tip and killed it that way. But it was pretty scary threw me off for a little while. So is there anything else I can do with that besides pulling on the Cs and just working my way up to the edge of the wing?
I think if you're getting dragged and you're tumbling over the ground, the best thing you do is just keep your hands down to your knees and wait for it to stop, because it will. Like doing that puts enough brake on. Yeah, I
I
know.
wasn't even decent. Like I went for a couple of 100 metres. So
Oh,
I was
really?
not even slowing down.
Yeah,
I was
wow.
going up the hill.
Wow.
We've been out for a while though, yeah. So is anyone got anything?
I personally, I think that's great. Like,
Yeah, it was
if you-
fantastic.
One, everyone gets dragged. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, I'm getting dragged. So it's like we're pulling this big fucking piece of fabric into a wing and we're attached to it. So like, that's part of the
It's built
sport.
to take your weight. It's built to fly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No.
So when we've got it in the power zone for accidental reasons or not. So I think that's perfect. Like, if
It was a bit scary though, Mike. Like it put me off for a little while. I was like, so with being in high winds, I was just, and it was how windy was it? Remember?
Oh, it was about casting to 22, 23 kilometres.
Yeah, so it wasn't that windy.
It might have been a bit stronger actually.
I think it was a bit
really
stronger than
unstable.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing when you're going out and if it's gusty,
Yeah.
it makes it super hard.
No,
Yeah.
we've all
Just
been
get
there,
caught.
so
Yeah.
you're not experiencing
So-
anything.
Yeah, it's not like there's. It's just made me think. Oh, is there a better way that if that happens again, or when it happens again, that I can control it a little better?
for me, it's keeping my cool. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting dragged along the ground. Oh, yeah, that's my elbow. But I want to look at the wing. And quite often when we get dragged, our wing would have maybe just flipped upside down.
Yeah.
And as soon as your wing flips upside down, your A's become your D's and your D's become your
Oh, yeah,
A's.
okay.
So your brakes then power the wing. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going for my red lines.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Colours
Keep-
are not useful, like different gliders.
sorry.
Colours are not necessarily useful when we talk about lines for different gliders.
Sure. No, your wing,
Your A lines.
the red lines, for most wings that I've seen, red are usually your A lines, but
Yeah.
different companies do different things. So know your wing and know that it's just swapped if your wing goes over.
Yeah.
But keeping you cool when you're getting dragged is something to practice.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah.
Works it out.
Yeah, but there's, if you're reefing on some lines, like when you throw a reserve in a sieve, you're reefing on any, your sea lines. If it doesn't work, to try and pull your wing in. So it's-
Mind you, if you make anything short enough, it will stop it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
Like I've gotten dragged at Rainbow, and I've just can't see anything. You're getting dragged in sand, and so I'm just rapping and rapping and rapping,
Okay.
and like I had most of my brake on my, I think it was my left arm,
Right.
like nearly the whole brake, and then the wing was just flying out there. But the other thing is like, did you go to Mike's thing last year? No, you weren't there. But I was at the Don, and Lace, who flies like a 24, came down, but it was
Okay. So I
powering.
didn't understand what a Dawn or a 24.
Oh, okay. The Don is up at Devonport. It's a coastal site.
Okay.
She was up in the air.
Cool as a leaf.
She weighs nothing. Flies like a 24-metre wing. I fly 38.
She flies the same wing we would fly.
Right.
Small.
Yeah. I fly a 38. She came down, and everyone's like, she's going to like just go through the fence. And I ran up to help, and she got her brakes all the way down. I took another chunk of her brakes,
Right.
and we got dragged
Both of you?
20 metres together. And then Paul jumped on the wing, so
Okay.
it happens to all of us.
on the landing in strong winds and killing your wing.
Yeah.
Everyone and people rightly emphasise ground handling, but there's also foresight and planning when you're making an approach. So you're flying along and you go, okay, the wind's really strong, I've got not much ground speed, and this is going to be, I'm going to have to be on the ball here. So you need to be planning ahead while you're planning your landing. And that's when I make sure that I can that I know where my sea rises are.
Okay.
And sometimes I won't even use the brakes on the landing.
Okay.
I'll be on the sea rises and I'll just come down gently, very little forward speed, and then maybe even have your legs a bit bent so your centre of gravity is low already, so you're not just tipping toeing on the ground, so you're coming down with bent legs. And when you hit the ground, turn around, pull on sea rises, straighten your legs all at once. I can't run, so I've got to get that.
Got to get the power down.
Get it sorted in good time.
Okay.
So I find that the planning is really important.
Yeah.
Standing up from a low position is about the same as running back 2-3 metres.
Oh, okay.
Your glider glides at 10 to 1, so if you can theoretically jump a metre up, that's nearly the same as running back 10 metres.
Right.
So if you do,
But you don't want to jump until like get it flying backwards either. Like there's just, but that like just getting it landing like this, and then just as you go up, it just takes the load off the lines long enough for it to fall back a bit to start that process of being able to kill it with the seas. And yeah. It's a thing you can do, practice ground handling again, is if it is windy, just kind of get the wing up overhead and just take a couple of little steps and then just jab the brakes like that and it'll lift you off. And while you're up, then you can reach up and get your C's and touch down and kill it that way. But you need to be fairly confident that you can just kind of hold your glider up and keep it overhead, and then you just wait and start running, and then at some little point you just like jab your brakes down a little bit and it'll lift you up, and then just go up, grab those, like look up for your C's, grab them, and then do the step and turn, run back towards it, kill it all in one go. So you just like, and the wing will just go into a ball behind you, and then you can just hold it there. So.